plan. Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in every life when the silence feels louder than the noise. When the pain is so real, plan, so sharp, it feels like the very ground beneath you has shattered. You sit in the ruins of what was a dream, a relationship, plan, a body, a belief, and wonder how to move forward when it all feels broken, plan. But let me tell you something gently, pain is not the end. It is not your enemy, plan. It's the beginning of something deeper, your power. You see, the world has taught us to fear pain, to bury it, hide it, plan, rush past it. But pain, when faced with honesty and courage, becomes something else entirely. It becomes the fire that shapes us, plan. It becomes the reason we grow. It becomes our superpower. Not because we wished for it, but because we rose through it, plan. You don't need to wear your scars like shame. Wear them like armor. Because every tear you cried taught you something, plan. Every time your heart broke, it cracked open space for more light to get in, plan. You are not defined by what hurt you. You are revealed by how you kept moving, how you kept breathing, how you kept becoming, plan. So no, your pain does not make you weak. It makes you real. It makes you human, plan. And it makes you powerful. Because you're still here, plan. And that means something beautiful is still waiting to rise inside of you, plan. We're taught from a young age to run from pain, to silence it, cover it, or numb it until it disappears. But the truth is, plan. Pain doesn't vanish just because we refuse to feel it. It waits, quietly, patiently, not to punish us, but to lead us inward, plan. To remind us of something we've forgotten. That deep inside the ache is an invitation, plan. An invitation to awaken a strength we never knew we had. Pain in its rawest form. Plan is not the end of the road. It's the fork in it. And sometimes that fork leads to who we were always meant to become, plan. When life breaks us open, through loss, failure, betrayal, illness, we tend to look at it as destruction, plan. As if everything we were building has come undone. But what if that very breaking is the birthplace of something sacred, plan? Something stronger, more authentic. The cracks are not evidence that you're ruined. They are openings, plan. They are where truth seeps in, where light breaks through, plan. They are the starting point of healing, not because the pain disappears, plan, but because you finally face it with open eyes and an open heart, plan. There's a version of you that you haven't even met yet. A version that only emerges when the comfortable layers are stripped away, plan. Pain does that. It strips, it stings, and then it shapes. You begin to question what really matters, plan. You stop performing for the world and start listening to your soul. Suddenly, the noise loses its power. The masks fall off, plan. And in the quiet of your suffering, you begin to see something new: resilience, honesty, softness, plan. And power, not the kind the world claps for, but the kind that helps you breathe when no one is looking, plan. So if you're hurting right now, if everything feels like it's falling apart, please know this, plan. The pain you're feeling isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of a deeper chapter, plan. One that doesn't demand perfection. One that welcomes your trembling voice and tired hands, plan. Because in that moment, when you show up raw, cracked open, unsure, that's when the real story begins. And pain, plan. Pain is just the first line. We live in a world that teaches us to cover our scars, to hide what hurt us, plan. To erase the evidence of pain as if healing can only be beautiful if it's invisible. But that's not true, plan. Scars are not something to be ashamed of. They are symbols of strength, plan. They are the quiet proof that you lived through something that tried to break you and failed. They tell a story not of weakness, plan, but of endurance. Of the battles fought in silence. Of the nights you survived when no one even knew you were struggling, plan. Each scar, whether it's physical, emotional, or spiritual, holds a piece of your story, plan. Maybe it came from a betrayal you never saw coming, a loss that changed you forever, a failure that made you question your worth, plan. Or maybe it came from a choice, a brave one, to leave what was hurting you. Whatever its origin, plan. That scar means you faced something hard and you came out the other side. Not the same, but still standing, still breathing, plan. And that in itself is a quiet kind of victory. So many people walk around hiding their pain, plan, pretending to be whole when they're still healing. But healing doesn't mean pretending, plan. It means owning your truth and realizing that your story has power even in its imperfect pages. Scars connect us, plan. They remind us that we've all faced storms, that we've all been broken in ways the world may never fully understand, plan. And when we stop hiding those scars, we stop isolating ourselves in shame. We start building bridges of empathy, plan, of understanding, of hope. There is beauty in a body that carries memory, plan. There is dignity in a heart that still loves after being hurt. And there is strength in a voice that tells the truth, plan, even when it trembles. Your scars don't say, I'm broken. They say, I survived. Let them speak, let them shine, plan. Because someone, somewhere needs to see them, not to pity you, but to recognize themselves in your courage, plan. Scars are not the end of the story. They are the ink that proves it's still being written. Strength is often misunderstood, plan. People think it's loud, polished, invincible. The ability to stand tall when everything is going right, plan. But real strength isn't loud at all. It reveals itself when the world is silent, when no one is watching, plan. When your heart is bleeding and you still choose to get up. It's in those moments when everything inside you wants to give up, plan. And yet, you take one more breath, one more step, one more try. That is where your true strength lives. Not in ease, plan, but in endurance. Your most broken moments don't define your limits. They uncover your depth. When everything falls apart, plan. When the floor gives way and the future feels like a blur, you meet a version of yourself you never knew existed, plan. The one who doesn't have answers but still shows up. The one who cries in the dark but gets up with the sun. The one who bends, plan, but does not break, plan. Those moments, the ones you thought would destroy you, are the very moments that introduced you to your courage, plan. It's easy to feel strong when life is kind, but the strength that truly transforms you is born in the fire, in heartbreak, plan, in failure, in grief. When your plans collapse and your heart feels heavy, plan. That's when you build the kind of resilience that no storm can take away. You learn that strength is not about being unshaken, plan. It's about being shaken deeply, painfully, and still choosing to rise, still choosing to hope, still choosing to try again, plan, even when everything inside you screams not to. And sometimes your greatest power lies in simply continuing to breathe, plan, continuing to believe, even when there's no evidence that things will get better. In those broken moments, plan, you discover your most unshakable truth, that your spirit is stronger than anything that has tried to break you, plan. And maybe, just maybe, the breaking wasn't meant to end you, plan. Maybe it was meant to show you that even shattered pieces can still shine, plan. We often chase perfection like it's the requirement for worth, believing that if we could just get everything right, plan, we'd finally feel powerful, accepted, enough. But perfection is a mask, it's a performance. And behind every perfect image, plan, there's a human being who's breaking in silence. The truth is, plan, power isn't born in the polished moments when everything looks fine, plan. It's born in the raw ones. The ones where you've been knocked down and have every reason not to get back up, plan, but you do it anyway. Pain strips away the surface, the roles we play, the masks we wear, the need to impress, plan. It pulls us down to the roots of who we really are, and that's where real power begins, not in looking strong, plan, but in surviving when you feel weak, not in always having the answers, but in asking hard questions. Pain humbles you, plan. It refines you. It removes everything false so that what's left is real. Your tears do not make you fragile. They make you human, plan. And there is deep, sacred power in that humanity, plan. Some of the most powerful people you will ever meet are not the loudest in the room, plan. They're the ones who've walked through their own fire and chose not to let it harden them, plan. The ones who've been disappointed and still show up with hope, plan. The ones who carry quiet wounds and still find the strength to lift others, plan. That's the kind of power that changes the world, not with noise, but with presence. Not through perfection, plan, but through authenticity. Power isn't the absence of pain. It's the transformation that happens because of it, plan. When you stop trying to prove you're perfect and start showing the world how you've grown through your pain, everything shifts, plan. You stop performing and start becoming. You realize that the very things you were ashamed of, the breakdowns, the heart-touch, plan, the detours, were not signs of weakness. They were the soil where your roots took hold, the pressure that shaped your strength, plan, the experiences that gave you the voice you now carry, a voice that doesn't say, "Look at how perfect I am," but rather, plan, "Look at how I rose." We grow up being told to be strong, and somewhere along the way, plan, we misunderstand that to mean being silent. We start to believe that crying is weakness, that asking for help is failure, my plan, that showing our wounds is shameful. But vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is honesty, plan. It's standing in the middle of your truth without a mask on, plan. And that kind of courage, the kind where your voice shakes but you speak anyway, that's where real transformation begins, plan. True healing never starts in the parts we hide. It begins in the places we dare to expose. The places that hurt, plan. The ones that embarrass us, the ones we fear will make others turn away. But the moment we open those doors, even just a little, plan, we let in something powerful, light, connection, understanding. And slowly, plan, those wounds stop defining us. They start transforming us. Vulnerability doesn't destroy you, plan. It rebuilds you from the inside out, plan. When you allow yourself to be seen as you are, not as the world expects you to be, you begin to attract truth into your life, plan. Genuine people, deeper relationships, clarity, purpose. You no longer carry the burden of pretending, plan. You give others permission to do the same, plan. Because vulnerability creates space for real growth. Not the kind that looks good from the outside, plan, but the kind that roots itself in honesty and blooms with authenticity. It's not glamorous, it's not easy, but it's real, plan. And real is rare. Some of the most powerful transformations don't happen after applause. They happen in the quiet of your room, plan. When you finally stop running from yourself, when you sit with the pain, the confusion, the mess, and choose to stay, plan. That's vulnerability. It's the decision to stop fighting the truth of your story and instead step into it fully, plan. That decision changes everything, plan. Because the moment you own your truth, not just the pretty parts, is the moment you start to evolve into the person you were always meant to be, plan. There's a common myth we carry quietly, that we must wait for fear to vanish before we take the first step, plan. That we must be fully confident, fully healed, fully ready. But the truth is, if you wait to feel fearless, you'll never move, plan. Fear is not a signal to stop. It's a signal that something important is ahead. Fear only shows up when something matters to you, plan. And that alone is proof you're alive, still dreaming, still hoping, still reaching for more. Plan. You don't have to be fearless to begin. You just have to be willing. Willingness is softer than courage. Plan. But it is just as powerful. It's waking up with doubt in your chest, but still choosing to try. It's having shaky hands. Plan. Uncertain thoughts and a mind full of what ifs, but stepping forward anyway. Willingness says, plan. I may not know how this ends, but I refuse to stay where I am. That quiet rebellion against fear. Plan. That decision to move while being afraid. That's where true bravery lives. Not in the absence of fear. Plan. But in the presence of action despite it. The first step won't always be loud. It won't always look brave to others. Sometimes, plan. The first step is just getting out of bed, making a phone call, speaking up when your voice trembles. Plan. It's saying yes to something small when everything in you screams no. We often overlook these moments because they don't look like grand achievements, but they are. Plan. They are the seeds of transformation, the whisper that grows into a roar. Plan. The tiny act of willingness that changes the course of everything. There is no perfect time to begin. Plan. Life won't pause and hand you the ideal moment wrapped in clarity and confidence. Plan. It will simply keep unfolding, waiting to see if you'll meet it with hesitation or with heart. So start scared. Start unsure. Plan. Start before you think you're ready. Just start. Because the moment you do, you'll realize that fear isn't the enemy, and waiting forever is. And the courage you've been searching for. Plan. It doesn't come before the step. It meets you in the middle of it. We often dismiss progress when it doesn't look dramatic. Plan. We're taught to celebrate milestones, victories, and loud achievements. And in doing so, plan, we forget the quiet courage it takes to keep moving when nothing feels certain. But growth isn't always grand. Plan. It's not always a breakthrough moment or a visible transformation. Sometimes it's just choosing to try again today. Sometimes, plan. It's the decision to not give up. Even if you're only moving an inch forward, that inch matters. That inch counts. Plan. There are days when you won't feel strong. Days when simply getting out of bed is an act of bravery. Plan. Days when breathing through anxiety or facing a painful memory feels heavier than lifting a mountain. In those moments, plan, it's easy to overlook your effort. But let this be a gentle reminder. Plan. Just because no one sees your small step doesn't mean it's insignificant. Healing, growing, plan. Rebuilding, these things don't always announce themselves. They whisper in the quiet. Plan. Everyday choices you make to continue. Plan. Every time you choose not to quit. Even when you're exhausted, you're writing a line in your story that speaks louder than any applause. Plan. Every tiny movement toward hope is a declaration. I'm still here. I'm still trying. And that matters more than you know. Plan. Progress is not measured by speed. It's measured by presence, by consistency. Plan. By the quiet resolve to keep walking even when the road is invisible. Even if you crawl, forward is still forward. Plan. We live in a world that glorifies fast success, but the strongest foundations are built slowly, layer by layer. So honor your pace. Plan. Honor the small wins. Celebrate the day you chose peace instead of chaos, calm instead of reaction, movement instead of stagnation. Plan. These aren't small things. These are everything. Because when it feels like your world has shattered, plan, the smallest step is not just movement. It's defiance, it's resilience, and it's how the climb back to light begins. So, plan, if you're sitting in the middle of your pain right now, unsure, unheard, unseen, I want you to know something. Plan, this is not where your story ends. This is where it changes. This is the moment where pain loses its grip and power begins to rise. Plan, not all at once, not loudly, but surely. gently, in your next breath, in your next step, plan. In your next decision to not give up on yourself. You are not defined by what broke you, plan. You are defined by what you choose to build with what remains. And even if all you have left are fragments, plan, those pieces still hold power, real power, because they carry your story, your strength, your becoming, plan. You are not a victim of your pain. You are the author of what comes next. Let the world see not just the wound, plan, but the wisdom it gave you. Let your scars speak, not of destruction, but of survival, plan. Let your voice rise from the place where it once trembled. Because someone somewhere, plan, is watching you not for your perfection, but for your courage, the courage to feel, the courage to fall, and most of all, plan, the courage to rise again. And when you rise, and you will, don't rise quietly. Don't shrink to fit the silence. Plan. Rise with all your heart. Rise with all your truth. Because your story, your healing, your voice, they matter. Plan. They are your gift to this world. And it begins not after the pain ends, but when you decide to turn that pain into power.